Croeso I cyfarfod y cynlluniau. Welcome to the planning regularly meeting and licensing on Wednesday, 31st October 2018. Please note that this meeting will be recorded for subsequent broadcast via the authority internet site. The image and sound recording may be also used for training purposes within the authority. The public seating area will be in view of the cameras, and by entering the chamber and using the public seating area, members of the public are consenting to be filmed and to the possible use of these images, sound recordings as outlined above. I'll move on to the agenda. Agenda number 1, apologies for absence.
Yes, Chair, we have Councillor Clive Jones and Councillor Malcolm Colburn.
Going to number 2, declaration of interest. Members, please give the reasons under note A and B while giving the interest concerned. Any interest, members? No interest. We move on to item number 3, P/18/01/0199, 34 Close, Penderyn, Aniswag, Muir Tydfil, pages 5 to 10. I'm going to hand off to Judith to take us through it.
Thank you. This application relates to 34 Penderyn Close. It's a 3-storey, 4-bed, end-of-terrace dwelling served by 2 off-street parking spaces, accommodated in a garage and a space in front of the garage, as can be seen on the plan on screen now. Planning permission is sought retrospectively to change the use of the property from a single dwelling house to a house of multiple occupation falling within Use Class C4. Use Class C4 is defined by the Town and Country Planning Use Classes Amendment Wales Order 2016 as a shared house occupied between 3 and 6 unrelated individuals who share basic amenities and occupy the property as their main residence. The change of use, which has been operational since July 2016, has not resulted in any external or internal alterations. 4 people currently reside at the property. No objections were raised as a result of the consultation exercise. The publicity exercise resulted in the receipt of 11 letters of objection and a petition signed by 28 people. The concerns raised, which relate to a variety of issues, some of which are not material planning considerations, are set out on page 7 of the report and are addressed on pages 8 and 9. The merits of the development are set out in the planning considerations section of the report. On balance, having given each of the issues due consideration and having assessed it against relevant development plan policies, the application is considered to be acceptable and is recommended for approval, subject to one condition.
Questions, members? Councillor Chaplin.
Yeah, obviously it states that this is retrospective planning permission, so this has already been used as a house of multiple occupancy without the relevant approvals. Number 2, I checked again yesterday and the house is still not registered on Rent Smart Wales, which is a statutory requirement since 2016. And now, based on this, I've got no confidence that the person renting the house out has got the relevant landlord's insurance, and I'm concerned the tenants are at risk if something happens there and the proper things are not being done, like the proper annual safety checks on gas and other things. He's obviously flouted making sure that he's complying with already with the legislation.
Yeah, in response to that, obviously on the first issue, you're correct that the development has occurred without planning consent. They're attempting to rectify that now. With regards to the latter issues that you mentioned, you'll be aware that those are not material planning considerations.
We as people have got a duty of care to the residents, and if we believe that the house is being run and there's not the necessary insurances and safety checks, surely we can apply conditions to making sure that if we grant this, they have to be registered with Rent Smart Wales. They have to have the relevant gas safety checks. Can they be applied as condition?
Not as planning conditions, no.
If something was to happen at that house and we knowingly approved this, you know, the consequences could be dire to the tenants.
They're not material planning considerations, and as such we can't take those into account in the determination of the application.
Members, any other questions? Councillor Amos.
You Chair,
Sorry.
on that point that Councillor Chaplin has raised, I share his concerns actually. Whilst we couldn't condition the approval and accept what you say, could you put that as an advisory at least? Because as Councillor Chaplin says, if something does happen there, the perception, I think, from the public would be that, well, Merthyr Council could and should have done something. So even if it is simply an advisory rather than a condition.
Yeah, planning legislation is not the right route to do that. I totally appreciate what you're saying, but there are other avenues and other legislative procedures that could do that, but it's not planning's remit to do that.
Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Chair. It's currently tenanted by 4 tenants. What type of tenants are they? Are they professionals, students?
Again, that's not a planning consideration, the type of people living there.
So we don't currently know, do we? Okay. And are there any other HMO type properties within this estate?
Not that we're aware of, no.
Members, Councillor Chaplin.
Less than 2 months ago, it was a packed priority in this area for antisocial behaviour, and obviously having a HMO, the fear of the residents, this is going to escalate. I know every case is taken on its own merits, but the fact that we're allowing a HMO there is setting a precedent, and obviously the fears of the residents, bearing in mind there was a lot of antisocial behaviour up until 2 months ago when it had to become a packed priority, and the environmental officer in the statement failed to produce a report.
Sorry, I'm not aware of the environmental officer's report. Oh, the response to the consultation, you mean? Yeah, they failed to respond, that's right, yeah. Any future proposals for HMOs on that estate would be subject to the requirement for planning permission as well, so, you know, we'd consider each case.
When this development was built, I think originally by Wimpey's, they tried to sell the houses because they were of new style and failed to sell them, so in the end they went and asked housing associations to buy these houses. In fact, a number of housing associations refused to buy them because the houses failed to meet Welsh housing quality standards, so they couldn't buy them. But Merthyr Tydfil Housing Association did buy them, even though they failed to meet Welsh housing quality standards, and now converting a house that fails Welsh housing quality into an HMO, I've got concerned it's dragging the area down.
Sorry, was there a question there?
My concern is that by allowing this to happen, we are escalating the problems. You know, the house fails to meet Welsh housing quality standards, and we're seeking to allow it to become a HMO, which is just going to make the standard of the house even worse, in my opinion.
There are no external or internal alterations as part of this application, so that the structure of the house remains as it was.
So in terms of a HMO, we've got no requirements of what we could accept as an acceptable HMO.
I'm sorry, I don't follow the question.
What class is an acceptable HMO? What is an acceptable HMO? Because this house fails to meet Welsh housing quality standards.
A HMO can be any dwelling can be changed into a HMO.
And we set no standards on what a HMO can be.
For a change of use in planning terms, we're considering the issues set out in the planning considerations section of the report, so no, nothing further to that.
Still don't see that, you know, this house fails to meet a required standard. Surely a duty of care to the tenants to make sure the house is up to a certain standard.
Are you talking about build quality or? Yeah, the fact of whether or not it meets Welsh housing quality standards is not a consideration in this respect.
Members, any more questions? Sorry, you want to finish?
Obviously, the concerns were on parking, and they're of new style, and there is a garage and one parking spot. Obviously, there were four people there. If we allowed more HMOs there, that would eventually put a strain on the parking. So there's got to be a limit to how many HMOs you could accept on a development. Would you know? Because there are no defined places for people to walk. There's no pedestrian area. It's totally a road area.
Yeah, that's the style of that particular development, isn't it? In terms of HMOs, as I said, any further proposal for HMOs would be considered individually. Parking provision on the site, it's 2 spaces for this particular dwelling. I don't see that can be any different really to if a family lived there. You know, you could have parents with a car each and children with a car each. So, you know, whilst there's 4 people residing at this property, that could be the same number of people as if it was a family living there.
My concern is we are setting a precedent that once the first one's there, that eventually they could lead to more HMOs, and eventually the parking will become a problem there.
The only comfort I could give you is that we would retain control over any further developments of HMOs. They would require permission as well.
Councillor Lewis?
Thank you, Chair. Is there no requirement for fire doors on HMO properties?
The requirements for those type of things would be addressed when the properties were built. So, you know, this application has no bearing on that in terms of anything different like that.
Councillor Lewis?
Thank you, Chair. Two things really. Ask the opinion of Judith really. If they hadn't, if they'd applied for planning permission in the first place before they turned this house into multiple occupation, what do you think, would we have allowed it, or would we be in this position now, or are they benefiting from the fact that they didn't seek our approval in the first place?
They're not benefiting at all because it wouldn't have made any difference, because there's no actual physical external or internal works to the house. So the house could revert back to a family home, you know, tomorrow, next week, whatever. So there's no difference in that respect. It's just that the way the people that are living in the house, it makes it different because they're unrelated. I think I read the definition out earlier, which says a shared house occupied between 3 and 6 unrelated individuals who share basic amenities and occupy the property as their main residence. So there's no physical difference in the house.
One other question, Chair, is directed more to Councillor Chaplin, really, I suppose, is he's raised many concerns there of his, and I'd be guided by him, really. Do you think there would be any benefit in us seeing the site, having a fact-finding visit?
It is a unique layout, because I only know two similarly, one here and at Cratham Mews, that have got this style, and both of those failed to sell the houses and ended up in the same position. You know, there's no walkway. There has been antisocial behaviour there. With the size of the response, that 11 people have objected, and you had 26 objections. I don't think it's in keeping with the style of the area. So yes, I would like to have a site visit.
So,
yeah, I move in a fact-finding visit.
have we got a second for that? Right, before we'll ask any more questions, we'll go to that fact-finding visit. So members, can we vote on that, please? We can vote electronically tonight. Members, that's carried, so we will get a site meeting sorted out. Mr. Chapman, what's the reason for the site meeting, please?
The concerns of the residents were around parking, so if somebody from Highways could be present as well. Yeah, from housing, because of the other obviously the concerns of antisocial behaviour, yeah, on the area.
So we're asking for Highways to be there. Any other officer you would like to be there?
I said was it the environmental? because of the problems with the antisocial behaviour. It's been, up to 2 months ago, it was a packed priority in the area.
Chaplain, in relation to the last two, when you mention ASBOs, is they are not material planning considerations.
I just wanted, oh, sorry. I just want to ask an academic question, really, out of interest, not quite planning.
Requires those two officers to attend the fact-finding visit.
Well, if it's not a planning consideration, you're saying there is no point in them being there, so that's the case, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for my colleagues, somebody in housing may have experience of HMO properties. Is a bit...
Given the fact that the HMO is a non-standard type property, it's something that the committee members may not be completely aware of, so I think it's important that we do have that professional.
The planning officer at the meeting would be able to set out the difference of what a HMO is compared to a, you know, a normal type of dwelling. Yeah.
I'm not sure, Geraint, what did you say about the environmental people, whether they should come?
Councillor Chaplin is in light of what he said, with it being an antisocial behaviour issue, that is not a material planning consideration. So whether he'd like to reconsider why he was asking for those two officers. And he agreed then that the environmental health officer need not attend. And again, I think it's been agreed that the planning officer can answer questions in relation to HMOs.
The only thing I'd say about the environmental officer, he was deemed sufficiently relevant to be a consultee. I know he didn't respond, but would it not be appropriate then to have him there to answer some questions from members? He was considered important enough to be asked by your department.
I accept that, but what I also asked Councillor Chaplin was, what was the reason for requesting those officers to be in present, and he said it was to deal with the antisocial behaviour aspect.
Judith, then why did you ask for his comments?
Environmental health officers are statutory consultees, as you're aware, on many applications, so it was felt relevant to consult them on this basis. On the basis that they haven't responded to the application, they've obviously not got any concerns with it.
Do you still want to ask a question regarding how we voted for site meeting?
Oh, it was an academic question, really. Do they each
Could
have
you ask that on the site meeting?
Oh, well, okay then. Okay. I'm being gagged.
Or
Anyway.
alternatively when we come back.
Okay, gagged again.
Yeah.
Not to-
Thought well. Yeah. Thank you, members. We voted on that. Now we'll go on to item number 4, which is application P/180257. This application has been withdrawn. So I'll get a Judith. Is there a reason for it, Judith? Or just been
Yeah, just to say that the applicants chose to withdraw the application after the report was printed. They don't wish the application to be determined in its current form. I understand they are going to resubmit an alternative scheme, but they've asked that the application is not determined.
members, item 5 to 7 are all information reports. So we go on to item number 8. Any other business deemed urgent by the chair? I have none. Thank you very much for the meeting. Thank you very much.